I'd like to call to order the Waynesville Monthly School Board meeting. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I need a motion to adopt the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Keeling makes a motion.
I'll second.
Janet's first, second. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Show of hands. 7-0. Citizens participation statements. Dr. Henry.
We had no request for participation per policy BDDH, Mr. President.
4 written communications.
We had no written communications either.
5 citizens update. Military report.
Mr. President, first, before I begin, I know school's not yet over, but also, on behalf of Fort Leonard Wood and commanders and parents, we'd like to thank the school district, along with the administrator, teachers, and support staff for a successful school year and a safe school year. So thank you very much on behalf of the Fort Leonard Wood. Just a couple announcements. On Memorial Day, float trip is the 26th of May. It starts at 11 o'clock at the Outdoor Adventure Center, and that's open to the public. Fort Leonard Wood will open Wallace Swimming Pool on Saturday, 26th May for the summer season. Operational hours are 7 days a week from noon till 7, and we'll also offer swimming lessons for the youth in the mornings at Lieber Heights Pool, Mommy and Me classes, and so forth, and that's open to the public. Youth bowling leagues begin on 2 June at Daugherty Bowling Center. Interested youth may sign up at the bowling center, and that again is open to the public. And also their junior golf clinics for children 7 to 12 years beginning 4 June at the Piney Valley Golf Course. Again, parents may register at Parent Central registration. That's open to the public. And then starting on Friday, 8th June, we'll start having movies in the park up at Collier Park on Fridays at 8:30. So that's all we have. Thank you.
Well, thank you for y'all's continued support for this district as well. And I had no idea school was about out.
Seriously?
District announcements, maybe you've got that on there.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do. But first, I want to recognize I think the whole middle school staff is here this evening. My goodness. Wow. And I mean, we even brought the colonel in back there. And I'm not talking about Miss Rayford this time or Edna. I'm talking about like a real one. So thank you so very much for your attendance this evening. I look forward to recognizing your teachers. And as a parent, I appreciate everything that you do for our kids. And as your colleague, everything you do for our kids. So thank you very much. Tonight, we will discuss, we do have school all week, by the way. We end school on Friday for grades K through 11. It's going to be a half-day school on Friday. Grades 6 through 11 will be dismissing at noon. Grades kindergarten through 5 will dismiss at 1. So please be careful on the streets. We'll have a lot of kids running around a little bit earlier than usual. Summer school will be held June 4th through 29th. Students attend the grade they will be going into. Typically, more than one half of our students attend summer school, which includes everything from remedial to enrichment at all grade levels. This year, for summer school, only middle school students will attend the high school. Summer school only. Middle school attending the high school due to ongoing construction at the middle school. We do have free breakfast at all of our buildings with the exception of Thayer. Summer sports camps are listed on the athletics website under important info and forums, as are the boys and girls all sport summer schedules. 4 Waynesville high school students will compete at the state track and field competitions this weekend in Jefferson City. They are Darren Roy, Tracy Gates, Tajay Paris, and Tim Brecht. And I know the kids don't want to hear this right now, but the first day of school for 18-19 will be Wednesday, August the 15th. It will not be a late start Wednesday, so put that on your calendars. And finally, I want to thank everyone for attending our inaugural Showcase Waynesville Schools on May 3rd. We did honor our first entrance to the Hall of Leaders, which is now located downstairs when you enter the high school. Bill Ransdell, Judith Learman, and the late Wayne Bandy were all enshrined, and pictures are now at the main entrance. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Dr. Henry. Consent agenda items, contracts, MOUs, Dr. Berger.
No clarifications readied anyway.
Bid recommendations, Dr. Berger.
Do want to apologize to the board. I got those posted a little bit late, and I thought I'd take that opportunity to point out a couple things. On the on the third item, for copy paper, we had Springfield Paper get that bid at $49,000. On the bid, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it looks like there are 5 that answered that bid. I always have a little more information on my sheet. That was actually sent to 13 vendors. So just because, we only give you the ones obviously that answer the bid. Playground, there were 7 vendors. Parking lot asphalt, 7. Roof repair, 10. Chromebooks and carts, wanted to definitely point that one out. That's out of FY19 funds. That was one of our purchases from the P card that the board approved recently. And this can sometimes confuse new board members. I think our veterans probably are onto this, but you'll see 2 people were awarded the bid. SHI, the vendor SHI, they bid on the whole package, but they were just awarded the carts at $28,900, and Dell got the Chromebooks for $265,000. I believe Mr. Henson was very happy with those bids.
Okay, financials, Dr. Berger.
May 10th financial report with MOSIP, $39,709,799.74. CDs, $10.5 million. General account, $3,395,980.06. Payroll account, $93,857.93. Total funds for May 10th, $53,699,637.73.
Okay, I need a motion to approve those items along with D, E, F, G, H, and I on the consent agenda. Have a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second. Mr. Deering seconds. All in favor? 7-0. Student recognitions. A, JROTC, U.S. Army Cadet Command Drill Nationals. Dr. Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. In April, our Tiger Battalion drill team traveled to Louisville, Kentucky to participate in the U.S. Army Cadet Command Drill Nationals. This was the largest drill competition ever held with over 100 schools competing. We had several cadets with top 10 finishes, and Colonel Williams is going to come help me present their certificates.
If I could have Ben Pullman come forward, please. And Liam Welch.
We also had Matt Jones, but he recently graduated, so he is not here with us this evening.
There you go.
Get me over there with you.
Congratulations, gentlemen. Also, student recognitions B, State Solo Ensemble Contest. Dr. Atkins.
Thank you. In April, we had students from the high school who traveled to the University of Missouri-Columbia to participate in the state solo and ensemble contest. And so we're going to recognize our students who earned gold at that competition. And again, we will have a few who are not here with us because they graduated on Friday night and were not able to make it back. Cameron Rosensteel. Okay. Jade Brazel. Jordan Rivera, Caitlin Banks. I know I have a few in here. Kaylin Taylor, Michelle Swink, Katie Blau, placed gold in the vocal category. Ezekiel Deos placed gold in, and Ezekiel placed gold in the vocal category in the woodwind quintet, and as well as for the flute. So congratulations.
Congratulations. Student recognitions. C, Skills USA State Medalist, Dr. Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. And also in April, we had students from the Career Center who participated at the Skills USA State Contest at State Technical College in Lynn, Missouri. And we had a number of students who placed gold in their respective competitions, and they will be traveling to Louisville, Kentucky in June for the national competition. Jamie Flint, Emily Connor, William Urena. Congratulations, Residential Systems Installation. Jorge Rios. Grace Christek, Broadcast News. Vanessa Guzman Slater, Broadcast News. And Deshaun Griffin, Broadcast News. Thank you. I would like to say congratulations to all of our students who represented us in the many competitions during the spring. Outstanding job.
Number 8, Spotlight on Education. Mrs. Swain.
Board members, administration, colleagues, family, and friends, it is my pleasure to recognize Mrs. LaWanna Rayford as the CTA Spotlight on Education Classified Employee for Waynesville Middle School. Mrs. Rayford is in her 18th year in our district. Her longevity, determination, and passion for her job make her a deserving candidate. Mrs. Rayford is the gatekeeper of all things attendance at Waynesville Middle, making calls to parents to check on late or absent students every day. She works in tandem with Officer Alexander to reward students whose attendance remains above the 90% goal. Every day you will find her issuing and printing attendance letters for our community to ensure that people are just as passionate about bringing their kids to school as she is about marking them present. She accepts no excuses and always demands an attendance note. No birthday, anniversary, or special school event is complete without her pan of baked macaroni and cheese. People across the district talk about how good a cook she is. Not only does she find it fitting to wake up at 3 a.m., yes, that's in the morning, to delight our bellies with her love, she also goes above and beyond for the Waynesville St. Robert community. Every first Sunday of the month, Mrs. Rayford cooks a meal for our senior citizens at the Pass the Plate Luncheon, which is held right above the district office in a nearby neighborhood. People come from churches far and wide to sit down, enjoy the meal Mrs. Rayford has made, and converse with the seniors in this apartment complex. Mrs. Rayford attends the Moac Church in St. Roberts. No surprise. She heads up the hospitality and kitchen committee there. You will find her talking about what meal she has to make for the church this week. I believe she said she has supplies in her car. People love Mrs. Rayford's cooking because she cooks with loads of love. Outside of being an excellent cook, a loving wife, a loyal secretary, and a great friend to many, she manages to accurately keep the principal's calendar. You will hear her over the walkie demanding that Mrs. Sumter be back in the office in 3 minutes. She is the preparer of the Waynesville Middle School calendar, and she adds important dates to the district calendar to keep everyone in check. We all know and love Mrs. Rayford, her get-it-done attitude, and we are thankful and excited to recognize her tonight as the CTA Spotlight on Education Classified Employee of the Month. There we go. Thank you. Thank you. It is now my pleasure to introduce Mrs. Kelly Howley to the Board of Education as the CTA Spotlight on Education Certified Employee Recipient for the Waynesville Middle School. Mrs. Howley has worked for Waynesville Middle School since 2007. She is a vital and contributing member of our Special Services Department and a tremendous ID teacher. This year and years prior, she has successfully differentiated and met the diverse needs of all her students. Her desire to take on daily challenges in the classroom, teach students how to set goals, encourage and work with them to meet those goals, and to develop a sense of self-responsibility is evident. Her upbeat personality and energy are motivating to not only her students, but also those around her. Mrs. Howley has helped to develop a team of teachers and paraprofessionals that put the needs of our students first, caring for each one of them individually. Her passion, patience, understanding, and sense of humor are all what make her a great teammate and a positive model for others. Congratulations, Mrs. Howley, for this well-deserved award.
I would like to recognize my Paris. You all think I do it, they do it. Sometimes I feel like I'm just the person behind the desk, but these are my support system. Roseanne Benzel, Christy Adams, Trent Wise, and Candace Davis. Hey, take it for the team. It's for the team.
Congratulations, thank you. Staff recognitions, A, fourth quarter Project Teach Award, Mrs. Bells.
Thank you, Mr. President. Project Teach is sponsored by Seller Sexton Auto Group. Seller Sexton Auto Group will donate a $100 stipend to Mark Finger, Sam Hall, and Chris Kramer from PIC Educational and Volunteer Facility to support expenses related to the project's materials and supplies. Mike Freeman is here tonight to award the fourth quarter Project Teach Award.
Thank you, Mrs. Bales, and all of our staff, and those being recognized tonight. Awesome job. Tonight we're going to recognize a team of teachers, and we've been doing this for a long time, and that's, I think, one of the second time that I can recall that we've recognized more than just one teacher at one night. So tonight we're recognizing Mr. Mark Finger, Chris Kramer, and Sam Hall. If you'd come forward, if you would. Give them a nice round of applause. They are teachers at the Pick Educational and Volunteer Facility, and we greatly appreciate your gentlemen's participation here. They had a project called Tiny Houses. Let me read to you what their project consisted of. Students will complete a project-based learning unit on tiny houses. After viewing a video about building tiny houses and discussing why it is a current trend, students will design their own tiny houses. Students will be given a few specific guidelines for designing purposes, but then they will create everything from the floor plan, using appropriate square footage, to creating a miniature model of their tiny houses. Within the project, students will use math, science, English, reading, and technology skills. The students will be assessed on the efficient use of space, the use of cost-saving and eco-friendly materials, and their designs met the established guidelines for the height, width, square footage, and included features. Tonight, we're recognizing them for the outstanding project that they put together, and then the $100 will go to help them with future projects like this. So we're doing an outstanding job within our district. These teachers being recognized tonight. Would you give them another nice round of applause, please? Cash is right there on the Appreciate you. Thank you. Keep it going. Keep it going.
Congratulations again, Mike. I say this every time, but we thank you. Thank Seller Sexton for all your support for our school district. B, District Teacher of the Year, Dr. Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. Tonight, we would like to recognize Cecilia Swain as our District Teacher of the Year. Ms. Swain spent 20 years in the private business sector prior to becoming a teacher, and lucky for us, she decided to make that switch. In the business sector, she saw skills that workers were lacking as they entered the workforce, and thought, she could go back and really make a difference by going back to where it all started, which is in a classroom. And so she decided to make that switch. Ms. Swain builds great relationships with her students, and she works to ensure that they master the skills and concepts that they need to know as they move out of her 8th grade math classrooms into the high school. She participates in district and building level committees, and she is a leader within her building. She will represent our district in the Regional Teacher of the Year process, which is managed by the state of Missouri, and then the Regional Teacher of the Year will participate in the State Teacher of the Year process. So at this time, Ms. Cecilia Swain.
Congratulations. I know you'll honor us well in the state competition. C, Transportation Employee of the Month, Mrs. Bells.
Thank you, Mr. President. It's my honor tonight to recognize Renelle Stroud as Transportation Employee of the Month. Mrs. Stroud is known as being dependable and builds excellent relationships with her students. She delivers our early childhood students to Williams each day, and she doesn't just pay attention to one student, but greets and pays attention to every single one of them. And so we appreciate all that she does. She knows her children and her route inside out, and we just are so thankful that she's a member of our team. Ms. Stroud.
I'd just like to make a quick comment that I'd like to accept this award in behalf of all special needs bus aides, because we're the ones that the public really doesn't know about. But we work in partnership with the bus drivers to ensure the safety of all our kids. Your kids, my kids are grown now, but when I did have kids, we want them to have a smile on their face when they first get to school and a smile on their face when they get back home. So thank you all for recognizing that bus aides do matter and they do care about your kids. Thank you.
Well, a lot of great recognitions tonight from students on down. Give yourselves another round of applause. Number 10, discussion, Waynesville Middle School construction project update. Dr. Berger.
Yeah, well, thank you, Mr. President. We'll bring Don Hussman from DHA for a slightly extended report tonight.
Going to pass out this evening financial summary of kind of where we are at this point. And if you can just take one and pass it on, thank you. First, we'll review our progress. I appreciate all of your attendance. I guess it's just a month ago we actually walked through the building and heard a lot of interesting questions and comments, concerns, and I thought it was a fun evening. So this is our update for May. I believe our first image, our first couple of images rather, dates from very early May the 2nd. And probably most of you now are beginning to recognize the various elements of the building because it's really taking shape. But this is a view looking back toward the east, back at the upper portion of that is the library. The lower portion is the cafeteria. Here we see workmen installing some of the caulking in the various masonry joints, and you can see now that the south side of the academic wing is just about complete. And what you see in the background, that very dark black image, is what we call Area A, or the physical education wing, and that is now very, very much underway too. Another image of that looking at the entry point. And that progress is just about where it currently is shown in this photo. They're working on the entry, so the brick facade is going on the exterior of this building, as well as interior improvements are continuing. Still, we're in photographs of May the 2nd, looking at various images, entry points into the building. This is the view from the courtyard. If we were standing back at the existing building looking toward the courtyard, and if some of you may recall, we stood and discussed the learning centers that are in the middle, that little yellow stripe, which will ultimately be clad in a silver aluminum as a canopy over the exit doors that will allow students to use the courtyard. Couple of views. I don't believe that any of the science casework was in place during our tour. I believe it had been delivered, but none of it had yet been installed. And you can see the casework that's along the wall, the upper cabinets for storage, the lower cabinets for storage also. All of the tops are the acid-resistant tops, even though middle schoolers generally don't use harsh caustic materials, but it allows the tabletops to last a long, long time. They're not easily defaced, and they're quite heavy, so they work extremely well in science facilities. Again, another view in the foreground there, you'll see that opening is one of the many sinks to where tables nest up to those for experiments. And this is the casework that's being installed in the prep rooms. And if you remember, as we walk through our spaces, the prep room, the common prep room, was between two science classrooms. So the prep room can be accessed from either classroom. And obviously, as the name indicates, that's where experiments are set up, or additional storage is kept for various elements that will be used in the classroom. Now we're into the 16th of May, a view down one of the corridors. You can see the lockers are now being installed. The restrooms, one of the feature stripes that we talked about is the Waynesville orange tile that's on the wall, and those little T intersections are actually the brackets for the mirrors. So each one of the lavatories will have a mirror over the lavatory. Again, a view of the library. If we were standing at the window looking back into the library. The acoustical ceiling is not yet in place, but a lot of the drops that conceal the heating and air conditioning are now in place. A view of the kitchen. A lot of the kitchen equipment was in place the last time that we walked through, but even more is in place now. An update of more casework going in. Casework is an ongoing process. You can see the open shelves in the classroom and such. And that concludes our photos. The handout that that you have before you, I thought it might be kind of wise as we're now approaching, we're in the, well, I'm not sure exactly which number of months of construction that we're in, but we have about 2 more months to go before the building will be complete. So you might think of the building being somewhere in the 85% completion component. The original contract amount that was submitted by Kernis Manus Schulte, if you recall, was $18,186,000. That contract included all of the items that are below, the items marked allowances number 1 through number 7. We believe, with what we currently know now, that all of the allowance amounts for allowance numbers 1 through 5 will be used in their entirety. So that brings us down to allowance number 6, which is the amount that we had estimated that we may need for the general construction contingency. And I'm happy to report that out of the $650,000, at this point of construction, we've only used about $209,000 of that amount. So if we were to say that the project were finished today, you can look down. Oh, I should also comment too on allowance number 7, slab moisture mitigation. That's actually a process that they had included, but we believe that we will not use any of that amount of money because of the special glues that are being used for the floor tile, and most of the floor tile is now in place in the building. So if you go down to my note summary where I was talking about the $209,000 number, we are really, if the building were complete today, the district would receive a check back for a little over $500,000, which actually lowers the construction cost from the bid amount of the $18,000 number to somewhere in the neighborhood of about $17,625,244. So I'm very, very happy to say that I think that the general contractor has done an exceptionally nice job. The entire team, including all of the representatives from the school district, have done a really, really great job in what sometimes can be difficult situations, and I know you've experienced other projects to where cost overruns have been nagging. In this particular project, though, I think it's really, really a wonderful thing to say that at the end of the day, and I expect that some of this money will be used, but we are kind of guessing that we think that the district will receive a check back from CMS for somewhere in the neighborhood of about $500,000. So I think that that's a very, very positive thing. Looking ahead, though, some of you know that our firm has been working on Phase 2, and today is kind of a milestone for us in that we have completed what we refer to, and some of you may recall how projects are set up in a schematic and a design development and a final document phases. Just today, today we completed the schematic design phase, and we will be moving directly into the design development phase of the project, and that's where a little bit more detail gets added into Phase 2 of the project. And from this point until essentially the end of this year, we'll be working on our construction documents. We anticipate that Phase 2 will go out to bid in January of 2019. And bids will be due about a month later. So that project is moving very well. We're very pleased with the development of that. And we anticipate that construction of that project will start around March 2019 with a completion date of May 2020. So that's kind of a little bit of a snapshot in time, and we can talk a little bit more about a lot of the details. I think we're scheduled to present during your retreat in July. Is that correct, Chris? So if I can answer any questions, I'd be happy to. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Don.
B, professional development report, Dr. Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. In your board docs, you have the professional development report. That report reviews details about district goals for professional development during the school year and progress towards meeting those goals. During this school year, faculty have participated in district planned professional development opportunities as well as building planned opportunities that are aligned to both district and building school improvement plans. In addition, each building has a professional development budget that is facilitated by the building PDC committees and that can be accessed by individual teachers to pursue professional development opportunities outside of the district. Do you have any questions?
All right, thank you, Dr. Atkins. C, support our students report, Mrs. Bells.
Thank you, Mr. President. SOS focuses on student academic and behavior improvement, and it was implemented after the Missouri State Legislature voted to withdraw state funding for the Career Ladder program in 2010. To be eligible to participate in SOS, certificated staff members must have 3 years cumulative teaching experience in Missouri, and they can receive compensation for $750 for 25 hours and $1,500 for 50 approved hours. We are not planning on changing any of the expectations for SOS during the 2018-19 school year. However, I will be getting a group of teachers together over the next school year to draft and present changes regarding SOS based on input from our salary team meetings this school year. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions regarding SOS.
Any questions? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Bells. District Professional Development Mentor Protege Handbooks, Dr. Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have our own DESE-approved new teacher program that supports our first and second year teachers. And so these are the handbooks that outline what happens within that program. So these are being brought as a first reading tonight and will be brought back for approval in June.
Thank you. Proposed job description revisions, Mrs. Bells.
Thank you, Mr. President. The following attached proposed job description revisions are presented for your review as a first reading. 2.22.5 Cyber Security Specialist, 2.22.7 Computer Technician/Systems Analysis. The administration will request approval at the regular June meeting of the Board of Education.
Thank you, Mrs. Bells. F, Curriculum Development Process Update, Dr. Atkins and Mr. Henson.
Thank you, Mr. President. The transition to the new Missouri Learning Standards has necessitated substantial revisions to our district curriculum documents. Teacher teams, instructional coaches, and district administrators have engaged collaboratively in the ongoing design and revision process. And for those of you who have been involved in the curriculum process before, everybody always asks when it's done, but it's always an ongoing process because we're always reviewing and refining. But Mr. Henson is going to give a detailed report on where we are at with the process.
All right, so I'm going to give you a brief overview here of our curriculum and where we're at and how we go about getting it updated. So the curriculum process, basically what we do is we get some teams. They're created by grade level, content area, and or program. Our teams, they meet quarterly, or if they're at the secondary level, they may meet after a 6-week grading period. Teams are provided, teams or teachers are provided with a link to provide feedback on any new or updated curriculum. So how it works is when these teams get together and they make updates to our curriculum, once it is done, it's been vetted and looked at, an email is sent to Dr. Atkins' office. In her office, Ms. Evans will send out an email to all the entire grade level or the content area and let them know that those documents have been updated. And in that update is a link to where teachers can go and provide feedback. So if they are not on the curriculum team, they can still provide feedback, and we look at that feedback the next time we meet to see if there's any revisions that need to be done. So when the teams get together, some of the documents that we create is the standards and pacing guides. We create our unit planners, our pre and post assessments, and our proficiency scales. And all this curriculum, we have it warehoused in Google in a team drive. There we go. So with the team drive, we actually have two different team drives. We have a working team drive, and basically in the working team drive, that is when we go and we review that feedback and we make those revisions. So everything in that working drive can be updated, all right? And then with also in the team drive, we do some quality assurance. The next drive we have is our warehouse, our curriculum warehouse. This is where our finished documents go. And to these documents, no editing is allowed once they're in there. The final copy is maintained by Instructional Services, and then they will send out an email to update the teachers of newly available documents. So this year, currently in our elementary grade levels, K through 5, they have worked very hard. They have all their standard and pacing guides created. All their unit planners are done. Their pre and post assessments have been written, and proficiency scales have also been written. And as Dr. Atkins said earlier, with the change to the Missouri Learning Standards, the year started out kind of bumpy, but our teachers got together and they worked very hard to get a lot of work done over the school year. So we're very pleased with where they're at. June revisions to ensure a smooth transition into the new school year. So this June, we're going to meet with each of the content areas, and we're going to go through these documents that we created. And as we get new textbook series, we want to go back through these new textbooks and make sure we have everything aligned with our new series. Current year in grades 6 through 8. Sixth grade has their standard and pacing all in place. Math and ELA have their pre and post assessments. We still have some work to do on unit planners, pre and post assessments, and proficiency scales and other content areas. And we're also going to work in getting their team drive organized. Middle school, they have all content areas have been created with the standards and pacing, unit planners, pre and post, and proficiency scales. And most of their elective classes also have all these documents in place. At the high school and WCC, standards and pacing, unit plans, and common summatives are complete. This year in the high school, they chose 12 core classes. These are classes that students request. These are some of the most popular classes that students have to be in. We got those done first. Proficiency scales for those 12 will be created in the 18-19 school year. Then also in the 18-19 school year, we've identified about 19 new courses where we're going to work on getting their common summatives and their proficiency scales written for the 18-19 school year. At the Career Center, unit planners are complete for all programs. As you know, we're getting the diesel mechanics program next year. They've already worked on that, and unit planners are almost done for that program, which is great. And then some programs have assessments created. So over the summer, inside your board docs, I've also included a calendar of our summer work. You will see a calendar for summer work. You will also see a calendar for dates for next school year. We already have that created also. So dates and teams have been identified to work on the curriculum throughout the month of June, and they are aware of it. The calendar has been sent out to them. So our goal this summer for elementary and middle school is to create and revise documents to ensure a smooth start to the 18-19 school year. At the high school level, we want to create standards and pacing and unit planners for all courses. So if they were not one of those 12 identified that we've already worked with this year, we're asking all other courses to come in and to get those standards and pacing and unit planners in place. So that way next year with that 19 that we have that we're going to work with, we'll work on our common summatives and our proficiency scales. At WCC, they're going to continue creating assessments for all programs. Summer Work District website. So from Dr. Atkins' office, they're going to update pacing templates and standard documents to the district website for parent and community access, and we're also going to update our standard-based grading documents that our parents use. For the 18-19 school year, dates for curriculum checks and revisions have been identified. Calendar has been created and shared with administrators and teachers. Some areas that we're going to emphasize next year, we want to have some consistency between the team drives. Those team drives can get messy real quick, so we want to have a consistent or a pattern, a model that we're going to use, and we want that K-12. We want kindergarten team drives to look just like our 11th grade team drives as far as the naming scheme and how it's organized. We want to identify and utilize the quality assurance team. That is in our CSEP. That is something this year. Our quality assurance team was limited to mainly our instructional coaches. We want to branch that out and involve our teachers in that. And then we're going to do more vertical teaming. We did a lot of grade level and content level, but we want to do more vertical teams within the content areas, K through 12. So a big thank you here. I can't thank enough our instructional coaches. I don't know if you've ever met them, but Scott Turner, Lisa Sapanzik, and Leanne Mowry Hallbrook have spent countless hours going through Missouri Learning Standards and curriculum this year. Also want to thank our teachers. There's too many of them for me to name, but many teachers have been a part of this process this year. And lastly, this group sitting out here, our building administrators, they have been facilitating these content groups all year long. So a big thank you to this group for the work they've done this year. And I will answer any questions you may have.
Yeah, I'd like to just thank our teachers as well. You know, we had kind of a rough start to the year, and they really rolled up their sleeves, as did our administrators and folks in the instructional area, to get these documents done, which was a great deal of work. And it's also very stressful when you have the classes going, the school year going, and so now we have a clear plan going into the future, and really commend the work. We've seen a great deal of work done at the secondary level as well, in creating kind of your foundational curriculum documents. So just very appreciative that our teachers have committed that amount of time to a very important process.
Anything else?
I would just, having had just a little bit of experience
Exactly,
in this area, that's mind-boggling to me for you guys to have accomplished that much in that short of a period of time. With no help from the state, because they can't make up their mind and keep on track on any one thing. But for us to be at this point, this time of the year, and looks like well in line for next year to finalize some documents, that's a tremendous amount of work, and it does go back, one, to leadership, and second, to the commitment our teachers make in putting in a tremendous amount of hours and effort and time to complete those documents.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hinton. 11 action items. Proposed 2018-19 staffing plan, second reading, Mrs. Bells.
Thank you, Mr. President. Administration is recommending approval of the 2018-19 staffing plan as presented at this time, please.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Dr. Fuller makes a motion. Do I have a second? Mr. Keeling makes a second. Show of hands. All in favor? B, textbook adoption, Dr. Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. As we are aligning to our new standards, we do have some textbook proposals for elementary science, math at the elementary, middle, and high school levels, and then social studies at the high school level. And so we are requesting a motion to approve the adoption of the textbook materials and resources as presented.
Questions or comments? Do I have a motion? Mr. O'Reilly makes a motion. Do I have a second? Mrs. Kreider seconds. All in favor, show of hands. 7-0. C, district surplus, Dr. Berger.
Thank you, Mr. President. Each spring, we solicit surplus items from the buildings, and those are detailed in the attachment. We've had great luck. I think this might be year 2 in using the Gov Deals. That gets basically a municipality eBay. And, but we do publish those locally, and we also send out an email that kicks out to our staff for kind of a first crack of those. So surplus list, May items, recommend action for.
Do I have a motion on C?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Keeling makes the motion. Do I have a second? Mr. Deering makes a second. All in favor, show of hands. 7-0. D, FY19 salary recommendations, Dr. Berger.
Thank you again, Mr. President. And what presenting tonight is not new material. It's kind of the summation of efforts of, I think, had to default to my colleagues, what we have, 25 members?
25 people.
25 members on the salary committee, a much broader committee this year. I know we brought this at least as early as our mid-year retreat to the board for a kind of review, got some feedback, took that feedback, bounced it back to the committee, and you heard about it last month again too. And so this is the final recommendation forthcoming in the last slide. But to get there, we'll look at just a few things here. And again, also in that kind of theme of nothing new here, but the enrollment trends drive certainly our state dollars through weighted ADA, termed WADA, and through our federal dollars of enrollment our enrollment trends also drive federal dollars through weighted student units. So, and then a couple other things, Senate Bill 509, that could have some implications in future years with some tax cuts that potentially could strain resources at the state that would be allocated down to the district level. The vouchers issue, certainly we heard more about that this year. That battle is kind of concluded at the state level as session ended last week. No doubt it won't be the last we hear about it at the state level, but that fight still continues at the federal level, and so we will keep our eye on that. With that reference to enrollment trends, and that slide came out pretty good, but the positive note here is that if you look at this maroon line that tracks right here, if I can kind of track it, this is the last year on this enrollment trend, and that dictates 2014. And so 2013, I think in terms of my memory here in half a decade, was I think we hit 6,200 a couple times in that school year, and then the decline started. And then if you look here, 2017, if I can find it, oh goodness, is this year right here. So the positive, if you could make it through all of my laser show and pointing out all these trends, is this is an uptick. And then really nice here at the end, I think I snuck a peek and we landed today, I think the report was 5749. So a little bit of growth is great, that's fine, but really the concern was decline in enrollment, and that's always hard to make adjustments to. So, kind of the word on the street, so to speak, is that we may become a little bit of a static situation, and really there's a lot of optimism for a little bit of growth, from some growth on post and then also in our communities too. This is an illustration of our salary history. I'd like to speak to just a couple things on it. And one is there is salary movement in the raise and the step every year, and that's important. That's credit should be attributed to, of course, this board, but certainly boards before you. You kind of create an unstable climate if there's times where, a raise isn't given. And even in some times, and even through the times of the recession, we've done a good job of still providing a step no matter what. The step is, there could be something occur in the future. We don't have a crystal ball, but there's certainly an expectation. The step is the first thing that we build into the budget. And then we actually have been able to provide for a raise on top of that step. Now, so that's a great thing for our district and a great thing for our teachers and staff. What we haven't done a very good job is this says 1% and you'll see it runs flat here. That's really trying to, most everything I do is trying to be very conservative and trying to be transparent. That 1% is an average, but what's figured into that average is places where our salary schedule, which is common in virtually every salary schedule in the state, doesn't realize it's frozen. It gets to a place where it's frozen. In the first 3 or 4 columns of our salary schedule, it becomes frozen. So whatever the amount they're making, there's no step down. Why is that? Is because virtually nobody can do that any longer. The state forces you to get right of the salary schedule and to work on your graduate degree. And so with few exceptions, you can't stay in the same column. You have to be making progress towards your master's degree. But I pulled a quick pulled a quick spreadsheet and showed that our average, well, our range of step increases range from 1.18% to just under 2.5%. So if a person, an individual in our district says, hey, we just, this year we just got a 1% raise, that's not accurate. You can guarantee that individual got a 2% raise, and then they would have to consult with our office, perhaps Mrs. Bell's office, to go to their actual cell in whatever column they fall in on the salary schedule, and they would be in a range on top of the raise that was given on any given year. They would have to look in that to see where they fall in that step, which would range out from 1.18 to 2.4%. And we'll try to do a better job of communicating that, because I know our staff members are busy and they hear they got a 1% raise or a 2% raise or whatever it was that year, and they don't go do the math and maybe they don't go back and look at that. But really, if there was given a step, it exceeded the raise that was put on the base. Does that make sense? I hope better than I articulated there, but we will try to do a much better job of messaging that. In fact, I think have we made the contract? Is that shown on the contract, the exact amount they increased?
No.
Not getting
Not
an assured
yet.
nod from Ms. Bales, but we're working on trying to get that put out in the contract as well. So there's no question to it. Coming into this year, the cost, salary, and benefit increase, this is you've seen this before, but you've also seen it in previous years. That step cost $660,000, just the step, just to move everybody on the salary schedule. This year, we weren't terribly happy, although it certainly was far from our largest benefit increase. But the benefit increase alone was almost $500,000 to our faculty and staff. So the numbers that we started working for, with the goal being at the master's level, we had 250 employees that were at the master's level that locally, when we comped that out, school districts that were very close to us paid better than us. And of course, our goal is always to be one. We analyze that every year. We can certainly fall here and there in a column or a cell, but our goal is to get corrective actions in place and make some modifications. And those modifications are detailed here. 3% to the master's column, 2.7 to the master's and 16, 2.5 to the master's 24, and then 2% to the remaining columns moving horizontally and to the right. I'll detail those again in the last slide, even with a little more detail. But basically, what was being proposed that got us equal to or better than our regional competitors, particularly in those areas of masters where 250 members of our certified staff landed, that one or both of our neighboring districts, one up I-44 here and one to the north that is by a lake, they could get us there. We didn't like that, so we took that challenge to our committee, and that challenge was going to cost $2 million. So the logical question is, how do we pay for that? So we believe, and these are fairly conservative as well, particularly these top two. The local revenue, we believe assessed value. These are the revenue drivers for each category. There are other line items. Obviously, there's more than just the local, the current tax 5111 in local revenues, but that is the driver. And from just the driver, we're going to increase about $150,000. Again, I believe that's very conservative. State revenue, we were pleased with that the legislature, after back and forth, ultimately came up to what they call fully funding the formula. It's not truly fully funding the formula, but you've heard me rant on that before. But it was an increase of about I think it was in excess of $90 million. How did that trickle down to Waynesville? On a static population, it's going to be about $550,000, $500,000. So that's good news too. And then we would reallocate some of our basic support payment from impact aid. Again, that is our basic support payment will be reallocated, not B2 funding, potentially our DOD impact aid as well, up to an amount of about $1.1 million. So if you sum that, you got $1.8 million. You still got to find $200,000 more. We surveyed out, and we'd reported this for a couple years, the utilization of our GAP plan. It was poorly underutilized. We surveyed out, I believe we were at like the high 60s. In fact, it may have even been 70% of employees that said, take that resource and put it on our salary schedule, where we don't have to apply to get the money back. You don't have paperwork to file through a GAP plan. Just put it on the salary schedule. There's the extra $200,000 that makes the $2 million, kind of the cost of the salary schedule. So in sum, 0.5% increase to the base of the certified and classified salary schedules. Certified schedule market value increases as follows. 3% to the master's column. But then if you'll remember, there was just a few cells that 3% quite didn't get to. Those are detailed below at the step in 16, step in 17, out to step in 21. So those were very surgical, very specific things that we did to those cells. At the master's in 16, 2.7, master's in 24, 2.5, and to all remaining columns, 2% increase. And of course, fully support, as it is right now, the SOS program. And that is the last slide. I'll field any questions. I know you've been trying to use a different analogy than beat with this, but I know the board has heard a lot about the salary schedule because it's a $2 million investment, but no better place to put an investment of $2 million than our people.
Any comments or questions? All right. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Dr. Form makes a motion. I have a second.
Second.
Mr. Quinn's got the second. All in favor? 7-0.
Thank you.
E, proposed job descriptions. Mrs. Bells.
Thank you, Mr. President. The following attached job description revisions are presented for second reading. 2.1.1 Assistant Superintendent Personnel Services, 2.4.1 Assistant Superintendent Operational Services, 2.15.3 Assistant Superintendent Instructional Services, 2.20.1 Director of Community Resources and Grants Management, 2.21.1 Director of Curriculum and Instructional Technology, 2.28.1 Director of Special Services, 2.47.1 Director of Information Systems. In addition, the following attached proposed job descriptions are presented for a second reading. 2.16.2 Director of Student Services, 2.21.3 Coordinator of Alternative Education, and these job description revisions represent some of the reorganization that the administration did earlier in the year, and so we are requesting approval at this time, please.
Questions or comments? Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Keenan makes a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Ms. Crowder, second. Crider, sorry. All in favor, show of hands. 7-0. F, MSBA policy update, second reading. Dr. Henry.
Thank you, Mr. President. This has been on your radar for a few months now. This was the suicide prevention policy that we had to run through our our local council. We've now got all of that lined up. I've received no questions since first reading, so we're asking for approval to this policy.
Any questions or comments? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Dr. Former makes a motion. Does I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Keeling. We have a second. All in favor, show of hands. 7-0. G, high school track remediation change order. Dr. Berger.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. We've kind of haggled with this for a while. I know this has been in the board's ear too, but we did what we hope to be the final remediation of the track settling. When we did that, we wrote the bid spec out, got great attractive bids. The work was done, but Mr. Pritchard was out there with his, well, the first thing that came up was what happens often. We didn't necessarily anticipate it for this, but was unsuitable soils. And I reported to the board in March that was going to be about $10,000 that we were going to add to the contract through a change order. Mr. Pritchard got out there with his tape measure, and he couldn't make the numbers work. He thought that we were being overcharged. That $10,000 that I projected, they billed us at $9,300. After Mr. Pritchard got his tape measure and calculator out, he had it at about $7,800. We had SCI come in, do their work, and through working with Magi, settled on that a net of $7,800. So we got that $1,500 after Ms. Pritchard took a look at that. And so that's all comes to fruition in the pay app and change order that is attached. So motion to approve track remediation change order 1, please.
Questions or comments? Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Mr. Keenan makes a motion. Do I have a second?
Make it second.
Mr. O'Reilly makes a second. All in favor, set. All right, 7-0 in favor. H, proposed course description book changes for 2018-2019. Waive first reading. Dr. Atkins.
Thank you, Mr. President. Attached are recommended changes to the Waynesville High School course description book submitted by Mrs. Long, high school principal. If approved, they will become effective with the 18-19 school year. They include addition of a pre-AP World History class as well as an AP World History class. Administration requests waiving the first reading and approval of the proposed course description changes.
Questions or comments? Do I have a motion? Ms. Kreider makes a motion. Do I have a second? Mr. Deering makes a second. All in favor? 7-0. So before we shut her down, I want to thank everybody for a great year. The kids, our teachers, administrators. It's a great year. Have a great summer, and we'll get back and fire this thing up again in September. There is a need to go in closed session. Closed record, closed vote is allowed by RSMO 610021, Section 3, hiring, firing, discipline, or promotion of employees, and Section 13, individual personnel records, performance ratings. Motion to enter into closed session.
I'll make that motion.
Mr. Keeling makes the motion. Second, Mr. Quinn. Roll call vote.
Yes.
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 Yes, we are now in closed session.